to you, and I had put out a short a couple weeks ago in reference to our load going to California. So I wanted to give a breakdown as to how much it costs to take a load to California, and some of the things that you want to consider when taking a load to California. I'll give you best case scenario and then what happened to us. Okay, so we had the load from Greenwich, Rhode Island, going to Thousand Oaks, California. It's approximately 3,000 miles, and it was paying $72.50. That was our negotiated rate, $72.50. So if it were you, because I'm gonna give you two fuel prices, because there's a fuel price that we pay, which is a discounted rate, and there's fuel prices that everybody else pays. So I'm going to give you those two breakdowns in this video, and I will try to pop the numbers excuse me, I will try to pop the numbers up somewhere in the video so you could actually see the numbers and the grand totals. Okay, so taking a load to California, just in fuel, we had to fuel up 4 times, and that was, we basically just topped off our fuel, because when we were in, we had gotten fuel to deliver a load to Greenwich, Rhode Island, and we fueled in Greenwich, Rhode Island. That was the best place to fuel when we were looking at our app to determine where we were going to fuel up. So it was $151.59. And then we filled up again, or topped off again. We weren't empty. So we spent $223.08. Then we actually did looks like we did do a fuel up, and we did do a fuel up, and we got reefer. We fueled up our reefer, and we fueled up DEF, and that was $770.53. Then we always try to get fuel before we get to California, because California prices are crazy. So we get it at as close to California we can without being in California. So in Arizona, we filled up, and that was $432.11. Okay, tolls came out to $177.96. Now, I will say those tolls are what they told us the tolls were going to be. We get paid for tolls, but that's not a guarantee that the tolls will actually be that price. We don't know until we get our statement from our Easy Pass as to how much the tolls are. So sometimes they can be more, and we try to determine if the tolls are going to be more, especially if we're going into the New York area. They're normally more than what they pay us, and anytime we go that way, we kind of try to look up the toll to find out how much it's going to be before we accept our load, to make sure that we're going to get paid for that. So, and normally if you're going into California and you're not picking up a load nearby that day, you're going to pay for parking. Parking in California is $30. It's actually could be a little bit more, slightly less, but we see the average is $30 per night for parking. That would give you a grand total of $1,785.27 to take your load to California. So that would come off the top. Okay? Now, that isn't a perfect scenario. You get 1 day of parking, you drop your load 1 day of parking, you get another load, and you get out. And in this scenario, you would have enough fuels to leave California. Okay? Now, what happened to us? When we were in California, we had a breakdown. We had a light come on, a check engine light come on. We take care of our truck in the sense of, if a check engine light comes on, we're going to try to find out why. Lights going off does not mean that the problem is fixed. So at this time, after we dropped our load, we didn't have another load coming out of California. We went to the nearest Freightliner mechanic or shop, and we had it looked at. Turned out we ended up in California that was a Monday, and we were there till Thursday in California because we broke down. It was considered a breakdown, and we had a knock sensor issue that needed to be fixed. They needed to order parts, so we were there. So I'm going to give you the breakdown if this were to happen to you, and I'm going to give you our fuel price on this as well, so because we do have a significant discount when it comes to that, our fuel prices. So we spent on fuel the first time in Rhode Island $124.99. Then we spent $186.82. Our big fill up was $589.78. And I'm looking down at my notes, so sorry for that. And then our last fuel before we got into California, that was in Arizona, was $347.50. Again, we had to pay tolls, which was $177.96. In a perfect world, everything would have stopped there, and our total would have been $1,427.05. So what actually happened to us is we didn't have to pay for parking because our truck was in a shop. So, but what we ended up having to pay was 3 nights in a hotel at $179. That came out to $537. We had to pay food since we were not in our truck. We could not eat our food that was on our truck. Our truck was locked up at the shop. Normally, if we were able to stay in our truck, we would have stayed in our truck and ate our food off our truck. But we couldn't, so we spent $50 on the food at the food truck when we were waiting to find out what was going on with our truck. We ended up paying $70 the next day for breakfast. Then we paid $51 for Uber Eats to the hotel. Then we took a little time to go to the beach, to Malibu, and we ate dinner at Malibu on the beach, and that was $197. And we also spent that morning $40 for breakfast at the hotel. We also spent money for Ubers to get to and from the hotel and to and from the pier. And we spent $11.93 to go to the hotel, and then $12.61 when we left the hotel to go back. And we spent $56.91 to go to Malibu, and then to come back from Malibu at the time we came back was $89.97. So our grand total was $2,543.43 off of that load, which paid us $72 $250. And again, our truck expenses would have to come out of that. We have weekly truck expenses, and that comes out to $1,454 in truck expenses. Now, is it worth it to go to California? It just depends on you. And it depends. For us, we really don't care to go to California. Yes, you get a lot of miles, but we don't necessarily care to go to California for the inconveniences that and the extra expenses that happen when you go to California. Like parking, for instance. Like, if we don't have a load coming out, and we didn't have a load coming out when we took this load, but normally we would think twice when we don't have a load coming right back out, because you can also get stuck in California. It's not the best place for freight, so you don't want to end up getting stuck in California, right? You want to be able to get back to, if you run on the East Coast, we run on the southeast mainly, the majority, so we're trying to get back this way. So normally it's an iffy if we would take a load to California without a load coming out. This one, we didn't have a load coming out. We were assured that we would have a load, they would get us a load coming out, because this one was delivering on Monday, and it actually would have set us up our week pretty good if we got a load coming out at that rate. But we did get a load. We not passed it up, but we did have a load right out, picking up the next morning to come back east, but then this happened with our breakdown. So just things to consider. Don't just consider the miles, like, oh, I'm going to get a lot of miles when you're going into the West Coast. You need to consider your fuel, parking. Are you going to have a load to come out? Because it's all well and good getting a nice load to go in, but if you can't get out, that's eating every day that you're not running. That's eating up that load, the profit that you made on that load. So things to think about. So can you afford it? Could we afford it? Yeah, we thought it was a good idea to take the load. Hindsight being 2020, all I gotta say is I'm glad that my husband does our finances and we were prepared. So although we had the breakdown, we weren't stressed out about it, because we were prepared. What also happened on this one, they ended up paying us for this load on that week's pay. So normally we get paid the following week. Anything we deliver on a Monday, we get paid for it the following week, on the following Friday. Well, in this case, they were on it and they paid us that week. So that following week, we got $0 paid to us. But we still had $1,454 in truck expenses. And when I say truck expenses, that's everything: our note, our insurances, our tags, our Samsara, like all of the things that you have to run the truck. That's everything total. So we got $0. A statement with $0. But what I will tell you is, we were not in the red and we're not in the hole, because we also prepare for that. So although we got no money, we didn't get we're not $1,450, $54 in the hole. So just so you know, things to think about. So I hope this video is helpful to you, and please, if it was, drop a comment, drop a thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. Until next time,